you're looking for the pulse of Tampa Bay sports, Beckles and Recher is the #1 source. The new guard, raising up the bar. Intelligent sports talk in your own backyard. Ain't no competition, ask the fans why. Beckles and Recher got it by a landslide. Don't fret, microphone check, stand by. Yo, Fox, where they at? Who my two favorite guys? Here they go, 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 here they go.
Wagwan. Good afternoon, everybody.
Wagwan.
Welcome to the reincarnation of the Beckles and Recher show into a podcast.
Yeah, podcast form.
We were gone for a little bit, but we back.
We back like hook rack.
What's up with you, man?
I love that jersey.
You like the
Big
old
Alex English
joint?
I am such a huge fan of 1980s, 1990s NBA. I was watching a video on TikTok yesterday of. You ever see the story about when Larry Bird scored 60 points against the Hawks?
I did.
Insane.
Larry Bird, I mean, people, as we get further away from Larry Bird, people like to downplay Larry Bird. I don't care what you think, I think. Listen to the players talk.
Bad man.
Listen to the player.
Bad man.
Listen to the player. Forget what you think, okay? I know you think he's good. I know
Amazing.
he's good. Listen to what the players say. So I'm just saying, that was a bad man.
Bro, this guy... So the story is, if you don't know, Kevin McHale scored like 56 points or something a couple nights before against the Pistons. This was in 85. And then Larry's like, you're coming out of the game? Like a minute and a half left? He's like, I wouldn't do that. He's like, you need to try to score. He's like, nah, I'm good. I got enough. I think it was 9 days later they played the Hawks in New Orleans.
Yeah.
He scored 60.
Yes, sir.
And he was making so many shots that the guys on the bench for the Hawks were clapping for him.
They were, yeah.
And they got fined. Everybody said $3,000. The guy said it was $100. Mike Fratello was the coach at the time.
That's funny.
And he said that Doc Rivers was on the team. And Doc Rivers said he rebounded 20 times. And all he kept doing was looking at the guys on the bench. These guys were falling over.
Yes,
I mean,
were.
Greatness is, it just shows itself. You can't, listen, when you could have discussions about a lot of things, when you're a guy like that, when you're a professional athlete like that, there's no explanation needed. It shows itself. There's no there's no opinion. It's fact.
Yeah, but there's people that were great, and there's people that were good, people that were really good. But when you hear Larry Bird stories, they're not stories of people that were good. He was housing cats and telling them he was going to do it. And if he was black, he'd be the most racist guy ever, because he used to talk bad about every white guy that covered him. He used to go.
He would get offended.
He was like, "You're putting a white guy on me? Shame!" And then put 50 on him, real quick. So if you're not a Larry Bird fan, go back and watch Larry Bird tape, because that was a bad individual.
So tonight is the NFL release of the schedules, and this has become something. The videos online are like the best part, obviously, but you didn't have this in your day when you were playing. Like, people weren't crazy about the schedule reveal, were they?
They were.
The teams, but it wasn't a national phenomenon like it is now.
Nothing is like it is now.
Yeah, it's true.
The draft wasn't like it is now. Nothing. Free agency isn't like it is now. And, for a player, all I care about, because you really know who you're going to play.
Right.
All I care about is where you're going to play and when you're going to play. So I want to know how many turf games I have, because turf games are bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to know how many cold games we have, because cold games are good for me. Okay, I like cold games. And so every player is going to be a little different. Some players will detest cold games. Some will like cold games. Some people want to play in Tampa Bay in September. I ain't the one.
Right.
Okay, so everybody's different. So everybody's looking at the schedule for different things. And national games, obviously.
Yeah, you want to know if you're going to be playing, under the bright lights. I had on my podcast today, Joe Madden.
I saw you had that.
Yeah, Joe Madden.
Yeah,
what a great guy, man.
Well, you know what, Jay? I don't just say that. And I've literally said I have a Mount Rushmore of good folks, okay? Here's on my Mount Rushmore of good folks. The aforementioned Joe Madden, Tony Dungy, Leroy Selman, Angelo Dundee, and I have one more. You know what it is?
Who?
Phil Esposito.
He wouldn't make that list for me.
You wouldn't make the list?
No.
Because you bust his balls and stuff. But
we have a different relationship. Him and I are different.
I love Phil. I've known Phil for a while.
He's a totally different category. But I know what you're saying.
He's just one of those guys where when you talk to him, I feel like I should be honoring you, But it's just not the case. You know what I mean?
Phil is...
He's different. He's different from the other guys. The other guys I'm kind of in awe of.
Right,
when I'm with Phil, he just one of the fellas.
So I'm going to tell you something. This is Phil, right? So we've interviewed Tony Dungy before, right? In person, remember we interviewed him, and it's just like, when he walks out of the room, you feel like a better person.
Facts.
You feel like you were cleansed.
Facts.
Right? Phil's the guy...
He's not the same.
So I'm going to tell you guys a story, and I'm going to tell you this because Phil don't care.
Yeah.
And it's not personal for, like, Phil, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So the Lightning played the last game of the season like 2 or 3 years ago against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they didn't play their best players. So Austin Matthews, who at the time I think had 59 or 60 goals, he didn't play, so they scratched him. So he was up in the press box. So we're there after the first intermission, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Phil, look, man, Austin Matthews is over there. You're going to go say hello? And he turns to me, he goes, I don't give a fuck about Austin Matthews. Loud as hell.
He doesn't care.
And it wasn't like because he didn't like him or he doesn't. He just is like, this is my time in the intermission. We're standing here for 15 minutes. I don't want to be bothered. This is why I stand in the corner with you. That's it. But it's just when you get to a certain age, it's combination.
Yeah.
It's a combination of him being who he is, how old he is,
Yes.
and the stature of where he is as far as the landscape of professional sports. Like, there's not many people to ever walk the earth that have ever been a better hockey player than Phil Esposito. That's not hyperbole. Like, when you look at the stats and you go, oh my God, that's, you know, we're going to talk about Pete Rose in a second. You know, regardless of anything else that has gone on, when we're talking about sports, there's levels. There's guys that were NFL players. There were guys that were good players, Pro Bowl players, Hall of Fame players, and then there's the penthouse.
Yep.
Phil is on the penthouse.
Correct.
And right now he's sitting in the corner, and he might be the oldest guy in the NHL penthouse, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Because him, Bobby Orr, like, you know, Gretzky and all those guys are much younger than him.
Are they much younger than Phil? Gretzky's much younger than Phil?
Yeah, I mean, Gretzky played in the 80s, 90s. You know, Phil played in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I guess they had played together, but he caught the
I don't know if they did.
No? Because we remember Phil telling the story about his father saying Gretzky's
Said he saw him early, yeah.
He's going to break all
it was
the records.
if anything, it was very late
I
early,
can see that.
Phil, and very early, you know, when he was in the WHA, and then going to Edmonton, and then obviously Phil with the Rangers later on in his career. But, you know, when you think about it, like, there's not many people, like, even alive that can check Phil Esposito when it comes to hockey.
Bobby Hall alive?
No, I don't believe he's
I think he died. I think he died.
Big time drinker.
Yeah, well,
Put it down.
I've
the whole
around
family.
A lot of hockey players.
The whole family putting
Hockey
it
players
down.
like to drink beer.
Yeah, he passed away 2023.
Okay.
You know, and obviously Phil's brother Tony passed away a couple years ago. I mean, that, you know, meant a lot to him as well. But, you know, this is a good kind of segue into the conversation about, you know, talking about a guy like Pete Rose, who now we found out yesterday that the MLB is going to lift their ban, and now they're going to let him in the Hall of Fame, which is like
I find that
so freaking
it's
stupid. Like, it's just the dumbest shit I've heard. And here's the thing, Ian, because have you ever been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I've not.
So I went. I've gone. I'd say 4 times.
Okay.
All you hear about Pete Rose, like even if you're not a big baseball fan, cheater, gambler, doesn't care. He's excommunicated. Nobody likes. I'm just saying from the non-knowledgeable people, right? And people will say like, "Oh, screw that guy. He didn't care about the game. He cared more about gambling than he cared about baseball. Baseball's never going to let him in the Hall of Fame." Ian, when I went there, the first person you walk into the door and see is a full life-size fat head cutout of him diving through the air. Everybody knows the picture of his hair in the wind. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Dirt all over the place.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, wait a minute.
You guys aren't allowing him to get inducted into Hall of Fame, yet his fat head is the first thing you see when you come in. It's one of the most hypocritical things in sports. And Rob Manfred, I don't know why you want to do this. Now, whether you think it makes you look better or the game look better, no, it makes it look petty. Listen, the guy got punished. I thought the punishment fit the crime. He served the majority of his adult life being known as the guy that gambled on baseball. There's people in the freaking Hall of Fame that are freaking racists and terrible human beings. And you couldn't let this guy see that light of day when he was alive. I feel like it's a shame on baseball for doing things like this. There's no good vibes that come from that announcement. All everybody is saying today is it should have happened before he died.
I agree. And here's my thing, okay? I'm going to be honest with you. I have no problem with them keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. I just don't, okay? That's an opinion. Okay, I know as a player they told us the one thing you can't do is gamble. So if you gamble and you get caught, then you got to pay the piper, okay? So I have no problem with him now, but I really don't. But just don't do it, though. You see what I'm saying? Either do it or don't do it. If he's not supposed to be part of baseball, when you go in the Hall of Fame, you shouldn't see him there.
Then don't do it at all.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm okay with that. I almost feel better for that.
Yes.
I almost feel better. I just realized that the picture right up there is the picture of my shirt.
Yeah, no, that a little bigger here.
I'm with you on that. If you are so staunch in that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, then don't ever fucking put him in. You know? But now it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna put him in. Like for what? Why are you putting him in? You're
now
putting him in. You want to make yourself feel better?
Now it's like you better not gamble, but I can gamble because later on, if you're gonna say don't gamble,
you're opening up.
That's what I'm saying.
So let me ask you this: does your opinion change now with how prevalent gambling is in sports and how, bro? There's FanDuel, there's all these gambling endorsements during Major League Baseball games.
What do you mean? I don't think it's ever changed how prevalent.
Do you think it changes how people should view? Because do you?
Players still can't gamble. That's the problem.
They still can't gamble on the game, right? Yeah.
See, this is the thing. Regardless how.
But it is a slippery slope, man. Because we've seen athletes, Calvin Ridley, right? We've seen guys in the NFL bet on games, even if they're not betting on their own.
But they still got suspended.
But you're also opening up. Like that's the thing too. It's like you're also opening it up to interpretation when you're. It's endorsing everywhere. Like it's on the bottom of the ticker every single game, the odds, the over and under. You know, I understand that you don't want your athletes to do it, but it's not like you're hiding it away and acting like it's this big taboo thing all of a sudden.
Well, the thing is, in the last 4 years, probably, they've opened up the floodgates as far as gambling goes with FanDuel and all these different things. But athletes still can't gamble. And if you're an athlete and you get caught gambling, God darn it, you're stupid. If you really think about it, bro. Because most of the gambling that's done in the United States of America is illegal still, okay? I don't even gamble legally. I go through a bookie, okay? I can do Hard Rock. That's just not my thing, okay? I go through a bookie. That's illegal gambling.
I do it legally just to let everybody know.
That's fine. I mean, come get me.
I don't know
what they're going to do.
What are they going to get?
Yeah, but so if a football player, and listen, I never gambled until like the last little while. I never thought about gambling while I played. So if a football player really wants to gamble, he can go through his board or go through another person. My thing is, if you have to gamble and you're in a professional sport, boy, you got a problem.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
That's an addiction. And just like somebody said, you can't smoke weed or you can't do this, and you do it anyways, and you jeopardize the millions of dollars you took your whole life to. I don't get that. Listen, I didn't smoke weed. I'm gonna smoke weed 2 seconds from now. I didn't smoke weed till I was 35 years old because I knew that it could fuck up my plans.
So that was my next line of questioning. It was like, you're gonna say the same thing about weed then, right?
About what? As far as what?
About not smoking if it was against the rules?
100%. I'm 100%.
Thank the Lord.
Jay, we did shows for many years. And
we did talk about this.
And I said, listen.
But I think it's ridiculous when you think about it.
It's stupid.
It's so dumb.
That it was against the rules. It's stupid, okay? Because they should have been giving joints to everybody on the way out instead of all the pills. But if they say you can't smoke weed and you get caught smoking weed, that makes you ignorant.
Yeah. You're an idiot.
To mess up millions of dollars for weed? It's not even physically addicting. It's not, okay? And the NFL is a funny place because now, every time somebody gets busted for a substance, you know what they do? They either say it's weed or Adderall, and I'm not sure it is.
No, I don't. Especially
even if it's cocaine.
I think it's more Adderall. I think the Adderall is the mask.
But the NFL can't tell us what it is.
Right.
So the athlete and the agent can say what they want to. So if you get popped on heroin or cocaine, you go, it's Adderall. Everybody goes, oh, well, everybody takes it.
Bro, I think the fact that people got busted for weed being a professional athlete when it was illegal was probably one of the dumbest things ever. You know why? Because I smoked weed at the time.
Well, so do the coaches.
But what I'm saying is that you, as a professional athlete, it's such a small fraction of your life. Mm-hmm. And me, as a person that smoked as much as I did, if you told me, Jay, you'd have to, and I wasn't speaking from a person that didn't smoke. It's one thing if I didn't smoke and I didn't understand what it was about. Because then people are like, so what the fuck do you know? How do you know? But I smoked. Yeah. But if you told me, Jay, you're going to be a Major League Baseball player for 6 years of your life, even though you've been smoking every day for 20, stop these 6 and you could be a millionaire. You know what I'd say? Take the fucking weed. I'll see you in 6 years. What has your life changed at all by not smoking weed then and smoking weed now? Nothing. The only thing it would have happened, Ian, no, but what I'm saying is the only thing that would have happened, it would have been worse. Because you would have possibly gotten caught, you may have made less money, you may have gotten less opportunities. Like, it's just so weird, and people are gonna die on the hill of like a rookie. See, Ricky Williams is probably like the extreme because he was so, forceful in his belief, and it was such a huge part of his life. The majority of the people are not like that. It's recreational. You do it because you like smoking, you want to get high, whatever. But it's like the fact that you don't have the wherewithal and the discipline. You had to be disciplined to be a professional athlete.
Correct.
You can't not smoke during the season. Like, my God, to me, that's just a sign of weakness more than anything.
I agree. And once again, I understand alcoholics. I do. I could see that taking over people's lives. I see cocaine taking over people's lives. I see hard drugs taking over people's lives. I don't think I've ever seen marijuana take over anybody's life. Have you? Ricky Williams he was a free spirit, liked
he just
smoke
liked
guy.
it, yeah.
But it didn't take over his life, though. You see, like, his life wasn't spiraling by any means. But you look back and you see me like, how many times you got to get popped to keep on smoking weed?
It's like Josh Gordon?
Josh Gordon, once again, I don't know if that was weed. Because that was happening a lot.
Yeah.
And that, to me, looked like cocaine to me. Because, once again, if it's marijuana, boy, you are stupid. Yeah. Because you're so talented. How many times did you get popped? 5, 6?
A lot.
About 5 or 6?
Way too many.
Steve Howe had more? Steve Howe had,
cocaine,
5?
Right?
I know it was cocaine, but 5? Steve Howe? Kept on coming good and all them guys.
Shout out to Jake Kobe and Christopher Cole and everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning into the podcast today. Make sure you share this on your social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're at. Share this. Let everybody know what we got going on here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Trey Hendrickson, obviously, is a guy that's done everything right on the field, Cincinnati Bengals edge rusher. This is a guy that is... I love the way he's going about this because he's not going on social media. He's not going to random. He's not leaking this. He's literally going to the facility and talking to all the media in Cincinnati and letting everybody know. I had 18.5 sacks last year. I led the league. Myles Garrett's making $40 million this year, and I'm making a quarter, $15 million or something like that. I'm 30 years old. Give me my freaking money. And there's so many different times where I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, you got to honor the contract. Football's completely different. These guys will cut you at the drop of a hat. This is a guy he's been here for a couple years now. Ever since he's been there, going from New Orleans to Cincinnati, this guy's been a dog. 18.5 sacks last year. Come on, your defense sucks. It wasn't like there's other people to pay. Your other edge rusher just retired. It just situations like this. You can't fault Trey Hendrickson. He's 30. This is the last bag he's probably going to get. And you want to talk about performance? The guy's been performing every year. If you have more sacks last year than Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, and T.J. Watt, how do you not think that you deserve more money than that?
I never, ever blame the athlete for asking for money. Okay? You could ask for money. They can tell you to go F yourself. They can do that, okay? What you don't do is tell a great football player to go F yourself because it's not going to turn out well.
That's what they did. They told him, they're going to let us know now 30 days before mandatory minicamp, and if you don't show up, you're fined. He's like, damn. But the fact that it's... Here, let me just preface this before you give your 2 cents here. The reason why, and this is, I, of course, want to hear from you as a former NFL athlete to talk about this. He's saying, damn, we're not even going to negotiate? Mandatory minicamp's a month out. You're telling me I'm going to get fined if I don't show up? I'm here right now. We can't even try to, listen, you may not want to pay the guy. That's your prerogative, difference of agreement. But if you're already threatening your best player that you're going to fine the guy a month before without any type of negotiation, that, I don't know if that's the best way to do business.
I agree, but it's part of the process, especially for a cheap team like Cincinnati. And Tristan Wirfs, after 2 years ago when he ended the season, okay, I said on my podcast, In the Trenches, Tristan Wirfs will never step foot on the field again without a new contract. And that's just the way it was, okay? It doesn't matter if you like Tristan Wirfs or whatever. He was never going to step back on the field without a new contract. Trey Henry's never going to step on the field without a new contract. He's never going to do it. And you know what? All this blase, blah, we're going to fine him. Have you ever heard of anybody getting fined? Because this is what happens. If you sit out, you get fined. Then they sit out, then they get re-signed. And what do you think happens to that fine? It goes away.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just pondering, and it's flexing, and they don't have to pay him. But you know what? You know what's not going to happen? This is what's not going to happen. Hendrickson's not going to sit the year out. He's going to play for somebody. It can either be Cincinnati or somebody else. And here's the thing. Great football players don't sit on the street. They get paid. So he's going to get his money. He's going to probably get something very close to Myles Garrett. And that's the long and short of it. You can take that to the bank. If you get 18 and a half sacks, and it's not like it came out of the blue, he's been good. 18 and a half sacks? That's more than a sack a game. We haven't had an 18 and a half sack ever. Have we had ever?
Shaq had
No, I don't think he had 18 and a half, Jay.
Shaq had
No,
19.
I don't think it was 18 and a half, though. I don't think the Bucs have ever had 18 and a half, ever. I'm not sure they've ever had an 18 and a half sack. That's a big year, brother. I bet Shaq Barrett had 15. I bet he had 15.
No, Shaq had 19 and a half.
Really?
Yeah, that was the year. He set the record.
That's a crazy
19 and a half for the Bucs. 2019.
He set the Bucs record.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, now, 18 and a half is not a number that comes around very often.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, Shaq Barrett only, the next highest was 10.
That's correct. Next highest that year.
No, next highest for him in his career.
Oh, that's
10.
what I mean. Like, that's an anomaly of a year.
19 and a half,
Yep.
10, 8. Those are his top
That's
three.
an anomaly of a year. Trey Hendrickson,
why you
what
gotta
does he
pay
have? 18 and a half, 16,
here's
15,
here's the other
14?
thing, too. Burrow's getting paid 45.
Okay.
And they're paying 2 wide receivers over $23
That ain't got
million.
nothing to do with him.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, I
but
get it.
from the team's perspective, it's like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, they're ignorant, first of all.
I mean, you keep paying wide receivers.
Okay, good for you. You got a quarterback and 2 wide receivers and nobody in the trenches.
In his last 5 years, okay, Hendrickson in his last year with New Orleans, 13 and a half sacks. Then in his first year with Cincy, 14. Second year, 8. And then 17 and a half the last 2 years. What are we talking about here?
It's legitimate, and he's a difference maker.
And in
let me ask you this question. How many defensive ends are difference makers in the NFL? If you give me more than 5, I'll be shocked.
He's on the list.
I know. You can't give me more than 4 others.
Yeah.
Crosby.
Parsons. Yeah, Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons,
Yeah.
Crosby, T.J. Watt. I'm not even putting the Boses on there anymore.
And don't even put old boy from Detroit because he got hurt.
Yeah, Hutchinson.
And we don't know how he's going to come back.
Who's the
Okay.
other guy? Who we missing? Who's the other guy? Oh, Myles
Garrett.
Garrett.
Yeah. But other than that, there's nobody else in that category. But he's in that category.
2021, when they went to the Super Bowl, he had 3.5 sacks in the playoffs.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean,
he's a difference maker.
it's just
So who wants him?
everybody.
Okay, there you go. So then you bet not even look at him wrong. He doesn't want to be in Cincinnati. If he went to Dallas, he'd be in every Pro Bowl. He'd be defensive player seriously. There's nobody watching him in Cincinnati. I'm saying Dallas because it's such a high-profile team. Kansas City, any of these teams, nobody's watching him in Cincinnati. So they better start stroking this cat instead of screwing him.
4 straight Pro Bowls, first team All-Pro last year. I mean, this is a guy, Florida guy too. Popka
I didn't
went
know
from Florida Atlantic. FAU.
Popka.
Yeah, Popka.
That's where
3rd round
Saps
pick
from?
in 2017. Yeah.
Saps from Popka. I think Saps from Popka. I'm not mistaken.
If anybody knows,
You ain't lying. I mean,
That's the way to
spin
go.
them out in the Popka.
unbelievable, man. Let's see where Orlando. Yeah, Popka. There you go. How about that?
How about that?
That's a pretty good school to go to.
You
man.
think? We got some ballers over here.
Hell yeah,
You know
man.
what I'm saying?
I wanted to bring something up too because I know I'm kind of springing this on you. The conversation about Aaron Gordon and the Denver Nuggets and what was going on because last night the Nuggets lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and unbelievable to put them up 3-2. But after the game, Aaron Gordon, who's been magnificent for them in the postseason, during his post-game scrum, called out ESPN, specifically Ramona Shelburne, for an article that she put out about Russell Westbrook. And in the article, and Beck, this is like a novel about the volatility that is Russell Westbrook. Like, this is a guy that, as talented as he is, he's moody and he could be a bad teammate and he's gotten traded and cut and threatened to leave a team because he didn't want to come off the bench. Like, this is a guy, like, he's a lightning rod. And apparently there was an argument after game 1 or game 2 of the series between Aaron Gordon and Russell Westbrook. So that kind of fed into the whole thing. But Aaron Gordon is saying, like, this is a lie. He's a great teammate. He's part of the reason why we're going to come back and win this series. The timing of the article, and I'm just thinking, I'm looking at it from both ways. I'm looking at it from a member of the media going, hey, man, you're a professional athlete. You just kind of got to deal with shit like this. Like, if this is the thing that's bothering you, rather than getting back and playing defense, then I think that's a problem. But then I look at it as like almost more of like a human being. Like, you could write an article about this, about Russell Westbrook, and publish it after the playoffs. Like, why do you have to put it out right now? And that's what kind of worries me about media, to the point of, like, do these stories have to come out right now while these guys are playing? Where do you fall in that situation? Because, none of what she said was really wrong. Sure. Like, because a lot of the stuff with Russell Westbrook, like, he is what he is. Like, this is a guy, last night, he had a wide open 3 and he airballed it. I'm thinking, it's the first ballot Hall of Famer, bro. This guy's airballing 3-pointers wide open, and even on the play where Aaron Gordon hit the 3 to win the game early on in the series, the Denver Nuggets radio broadcast saw Russell Westbrook bringing the ball down the court, and we're like, no. Oh, yes, good pass. So there is that no, yes type with Russell Westbrook. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But I guess the revealing of the article, what are your thoughts on the timing of the article being released? Is that something that maybe should be adapted when we're looking at sports media, and also playing with a guy like Russell Westbrook of, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't?
Well, Ramona did her job because we're talking about it. Okay, That's true. Okay, now we're talking about her. I don't know. I know what she looks like. She's got a tight face, and I know what she looks like. But if you ask me, does it make sense to write it at that point? Yeah, if you try to ruffle feathers, and if you try to be a dick.
That's my point, though.
Okay,
like,
but you're
why do we have to? Why does it have to be like that?
But she's being a dick on purpose. You're being a dick on purpose. Wait till they lose the series, because all that can happen is that if somebody writes that so-and-so is a bad teammate in the middle of a series, all the players have to answer it.
Right.
And that's a distraction, okay? Here's the other end of it, okay? And you alluded to it a little bit. Like, you started by saying, like, you're an athlete, you have to deal with this. Then you came around and said, well, he's human. I'm glad you said that. Because it's easy for somebody on the street to say, you can't be sensitive if you're an athlete. Sensitive people are sensitive anyways, okay? Right. So, listen, when I was at Indiana, before we played Purdue, I read the paper, and I read in the paper, this guy from Indianapolis Star said, if Anthony Thompson ran behind Michigan's offensive line, he'd have had 50,000 yards. Indiana, and I knew our offensive line was as good as Michigan, so that bothered the hell out of me, to a point where I was ready to just choke the guy. Here was the unfortunate part, Jay. We lost the game. We don't go to a bowl game. That night, I'm at Hooligans, and I see the writer in there.
Oh, shit.
I see the writer in there. So after I almost black out and have him bent over the bar, literally, I didn't hit him, but I was ready to snap his neck. I mean, I was in a funny place. And was it childish for me? Yes. But I'm human. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to talk about, like, it's so easy to say don't be sensitive, but fucking athletes are the most sensitive people in the world, okay?
Yeah, of course.
These are your teammates. Like when Terrell Owens said when he was crying, that's my quarterback. I get it. You can laugh about it, but that's still his guy. That's still a guy you got to go fight with every day, okay? So I'm okay with him doing that. And for him to have to answer this, or we're even talk about in the middle of a series, is only distracting for a team. So if she thinks she's doing anything beneficial for the sport, she's doing something beneficial for her name. She's not doing anything beneficial for the sport, or definitely not that team.
Here's the other thing, too, is it's one thing if you're writing a recap of the game, right? It's one thing if you're writing how a guy made a mistake and you think he should have done better, or he didn't give good effort, or he had an absolute stinker of a night. I look at that differently, right? Because the story of the game is the story of the game. And that is where you kind of take opinions out of it, and it's more fact-based.
Yep.
This is not something that needed to be written about Russell Westbrook and the Denver Nuggets at this time. The reason why you're getting a lot of, publicity, and it's on the front page of ESPN.com, is because you wrote it in the middle of the series.
There you go.
And I think that's the slippery slope. And now, as we're going down the road of athletes controlling their own narrative, athletes having their own podcast, and not trusting media, things like this do not help. Because there's no reason to publish this at the time, other than bigging yourself up and doing things for clicks.
Sure.
And I get it. Everybody wants clicks. You want more followers. You want more likes. That's fine. But to do it like that, to cause that type of reaction, like, is that why you got in the business? Like, I that's where something that I get into it with some of my friends that are writers, and, they're like, well, you got to be unbiased so you can be honest. Like, well, you guys do it on the other side.
You can't be unbiased.
Well, here's let me explain what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can do my job and critique the teams in this town and still support them.
Okay.
There are people of the old school mentality, especially of like the old school, like journalist and columnist mentality, that put themselves in such a distanced position because they don't want their own emotions to affect the story that they're about to write. But what ends up happening is you become so jaded and so cold and so off to the side that I think the other end happens, that you become so jaded and so negative and everything. How come a columnist has to be so negative? How come a columnist can't write a story about a guy doing something well, or a guy doing something that an unsung hero? Because that shit doesn't sell in this country. It's all about the car crashes and the terrible things happening. So I would rather, if I'm a member of the media, I would rather be a person that's supportive of the Lightning, the Bucks, the Rays, the Rowdies, the Sun, all that stuff, but still be able to hold them accountable when they don't do well. Because I do think that some people don't do that, but if you want to take that stance the way I'm taking that stance, you have to be able to do that, or people are going to think you're disingenuous. I just think if you're one of those people that think you're doing your job the right way, being unbiased, I think you're jading yourself and putting yourself in a position where you're coming off as a dick and you're almost biased the other way.
Listen, I've talked about athletes for years, but I try to say things that I would say to their face.
Right.
That's real, okay? Like if Gerald McCoy, for instance, if we had Gerald McCoy on, and I've never interviewed Gerald McCoy, Gerald McCoy doesn't like me, and that's fine because I've said things about him that he doesn't like, and I get it, trust me. I've heard people say things about me, and I don't like them. Okay, automatically you're not gonna like somebody who doesn't say good things about you. I've never been personal with Gerald McCoy. I've actually said I think he's a very likable person. All I'm talking about is his play. Mm-hmm. Now, if we sat down, and I've done it with you and some other people, I said, this is why I don't like him. And you're like, oh, okay, I see it. I'm not blowing him up, okay? Like Ramona, if she sees Russell Westbrook out on the street, she's gonna hide from him.
Right.
Because you didn't really treat him fairly. Jay, you're a fair person because I know you. I think I'm a fair person. You and I can't say every person in the Bay Area in media is fair.
Not even close.
Okay, so as an athlete, why would you trust most media members? Like, I seen Mike Tyson sit down for an interview, and this really tightened up black dude was like,
I remember that, yeah.
We're here with the convicted rapist, and then Mike Tyson's looking at him like, that's all I am? Is a convicted...
Yeah, it was a weird way.
And then he said, no, F you. Because the other guy was just speaking down to him. Mm-hmm. So you as a human, you feel that. So why does Ramon have to bring that up at that time? Okay, so to me, listen, Russell Westbrook, I think he catches a lot of crap. Okay, is he out there? Yeah, no doubt about it. Was he fantastic? Yep. But to me, I don't care who the athlete is. I look about the timing, and the timing of this was dick-like, okay? That was a dick move, just like somebody breaking a story in the playoffs. Like, why do you want to do that? Mm-hmm. What do you want to take away from this whole year of work from this team, and you can put a distraction? And I'm going to say the same thing with athletes. When an athlete talks about another athlete, the other athlete has to say something.
Right.
Okay, so I've never, somebody goes, well, how do you think Charles McCray played? And if I just watched film and Charles McCray played like a horse's ass, you know what I would say? We all need to play better.
Right.
That's the leadership part. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use Trent Dilfer as an example because that's my brother. Trent Dilfer one time I read in the paper that Trent said, well, how can I be successful with my offensive line playing so poorly? Okay? And Trent was in the locker room. I pulled him over. I said, come here. And I said, we're about to go in this meeting room and get our asses reamed. The last thing we need to do is read in the paper that our quarterback doesn't have our back. And he looked at me and he goes, I get that. And from what I've heard after that, later in his career, he was an amazing teammate. You see what I'm saying? But you have to... Don't be a dick. I don't know what other way to say that.
No, that's a great... Because...
Just don't be a dick.
We're in the world now where everybody has to have an opinion. Social media is there for us to take, right? But one thing that I cannot stand is that people hide behind the veil of honesty to be a dick.
Correct.
Well, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you say whatever you want to say. Yeah. You could see a overweight person walking across the street pushing 450 pounds and you can yell out to them, hey, fat ass, don't trip and fall. Yeah. Like, okay, you're being honest, but more importantly, you're being a dick.
Yes.
So nowadays, where everybody feels like their opinion has to get out there, I think they're, again, going back to like, everybody should get punched in the face one time in their life. Or everybody should be in a fight. Like, somebody should, if you are around people and nobody is ever checking you or telling you that you need to do something a little bit differently, or just, even just having normal in-depth conversations with you, you need to surround yourself with different people. Because again, if you're one of those people that hides behind the veil of honesty to just treat people poorly, like that says a lot more about you than everybody else. Agreed. And now when we have social media, now when we have just regular media, like that, I don't know if that trust is ever going to get stronger. I think the trust between athletes and media members is only going to get worse because more and more people that are growing up, Ian, are going to be growing up with Instagram and growing up with YouTube, growing up with having their own podcasts, right? You're not going to see less of that going forward. You're going to see more. And remember when it was just Draymond and just former athletes? Bro, you see current athletes doing it. You see guys on their podcast more than you see them on the court. On the rink, on the field. That's not going to dissipate. It's only going to get stronger. And if you are a guy, like let's say you're Draymond Green and you lose this series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, are you really going to be able to sit down with, other than your contractually obligated things for 6 minutes? You're not giving anybody a good story. You're going on your podcast with Baron Davis that night, and you're going to get your own clicks and own likes and own followers for that stuff. So when you have less of an opportunity to speak with the media, that's the only way the trust grows. I mean, you could speak on it from both sides more as a player, but I can speak on it from the media side. Like, the reason why I have great relationships with the players that I do are because I'm there. And I go and I talk to them all the time. No, but I mean, that's a huge... If I'm not there all the time, Ian, they're not going to trust me. But the fact that...
I disagree with that, Jay. I think it's more you than you being there every day.
But that's part of it. That's not part. That's got to be part of it.
Being a real person.
Yeah, no. I'm not saying that's the only reason.
Because there's some people there every day.
No, you're right. You're right.
Hate.
I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but the fact that you're there, it can't hurt because they know who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that every time I go up to Tristan Wirfs or Graham Barton and stuff, like they always give me the time. Mm-hmm. Every single time. You know why? Because it happens all the time, right? So same thing with the Lightning. Every single time I hey, Chernak, right? Mm-hmm. He doesn't speak great English, but Chernak every single time. Yeah, I got a couple minutes for you. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way. Sure it does. But if I don't show up all the time, or if I start talking shit, or like if I'm a guy that starts name calling, that's the other thing too. And I'm sure you've heard this in the past, like that guy's a bitch, or that guy's soft, or that guy's that. Yeah. Watch out. You know who doesn't say that?
Yeah.
People that go in the locker rooms.
That's true.
When a guy on the radio or a guy on TV or a guy on a podcast goes, this guy's soft or this guy's a bitch, you know what you tell me when you say that? You never met that player.
You never met him. No.
You never talk to him. Because when you sit there and you talk to these professional athletes and you're as far away from, you and I'm not saying that about... I wouldn't say it about it if I didn't like the guy. But who the fuck are you to think that you could say something about a professional athlete getting paid millions of dollars? Let's not forget, the pro athletes are the main characters. Forever. No matter how popular Stephen A. Smith is with the whole LeBron thing, he is always the supporting actor. He is always the guy. The only reason why people talk about it is because it's him and LeBron. Not because it's him.
No, that's fine.
Stephen A. doesn't have a job unless the LeBrons of the world play sports. If you don't know your role, then you're screwed. Like, because you're fighting a losing battle, because you'll never be, as a media member, more important than the players that you cover.
Well, I think it's more of a societal issue because I don't know if issue is the right word, but it's the pulse of a lot of young people, unfortunately, because when I was young, everything was confrontational, face to face. You couldn't do things from afar. Now people talk trash on social media. Right. They talk trash here and there. Now, I'm gonna give you a good example. I play NCAA Madden and NCAA 25. All right, and I'm 57 years old, and I'm not gonna sit there and shit talk with a 17-year-old kid. Okay, so I'm playing a 17-year-old kid with a snotty nose, and he's calling me a bitch ass N-word.
When?
All the time it happens.
Online? You play online?
All the time.
You play it online?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh my god.
Because you have to hear them, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a bitch and you suck and you're trash, and then I beat them. So how do you call somebody trash and then you get beat by them? So for me as a 57-year-old man, Jay, and I'm just gonna be honest because I'm not a fuddy-duddy, okay? This is me. If we play a game and it's a tight game and you beat me close, you know what I say? Good game, dude.
Yeah.
Good game, man. That's good. I swear to God, that's what I want to give you respect. Not you a bitch ass N-word and you suck. No, what do you mean I suck? I just beat you. That's what. And so it's a lot of that now is people just being dicks from afar. Okay, you hear about cyberbullying. Nobody's cyberbullying me. No. I'm just telling. Nobody's gonna bully me. Period. But you're certainly not gonna make me cry by writing something on the internet or on frickin' social media. Toughen the fuck up, okay? Seriously. If my son came up and he said, "Dad, somebody talked bad about me on social media," you know what I say? Go dot his eye. I don't know what else to tell you. Either stop crying, stop your blood clot crying.
Stop your blood clot crying.
Or go dot his eye.
That's it.
There ain't nothing else.
So breaking news here. Netflix has just confirmed that the rumors are true. Deion Primetime Sanders is coming to Netflix in 2026.
What does that mean?
Looks like they're doing a
show?
A show. Is this a surprise? Not at all.
No. Well, listen, a lot of people hate Deion Sanders, as we found out in the draft. A lot of people hate Deion Sanders. A lot. But if you want publicity and exposure, where do you get more than in Colorado right now? Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado, what other team got more exposure than them last year? Like, seriously,
yeah.
like I'm not even really a Colorado fan. I don't think I'm a Deion fan, okay? I like the majority of things he does, like the majority of things he says. I find myself going to watch Colorado games, okay?
Yeah, no doubt.
Late nights sometimes. There's not one other college team that I really have to watch. There isn't. Right. I mean, none. So Deion's doing something right. That is for sure.
Everybody's going to be tuned into prime time. Everybody, because he's just that. He's polarizing. Yeah, he's a guy that, and he was a guy that was able to back it up in his career, playing football, playing baseball, and now with his sons, and he's going to continue coaching. I'm very intrigued on what's going to happen in the next 5 years with Deion. As far as, is he going to stay at Colorado long term?
I think he is. I think he will.
I just don't think that there's any way that he ever stays there for longer than 5 or 6 years.
Well,
there's just so much opportunities.
If he brings a national championship to Colorado, that's possible.
Yeah, but then what happens?
But that's the thing.
Is Deion going to go? Is he going to try to win another one, or is he going to go?
If you bring a national championship to Colorado, they're going to have statues of you all over town, and then you become the Nick Saban of Colorado.
Yeah, but Alabama's a lot deeper of a tradition in college football.
That's what I mean, though. You're going to establish the tradition.
You win it, but here's the thing: you win a national championship in Colorado. Where's your next job?
NFL.
Wherever the hell you want it to be. Wherever you want it to be.
At as much money as you want. Period.
He might.
He's bringing Netflix with you. He's bringing Netflix with him.
That's what I'm saying, Beck. That's what I'm saying.
Please.
He's a guy that can go, Kellen DeBoer didn't work out at Alabama. I'll go to Alabama. Yeah. Oh, Mike Norvell, Florida State. I want to go home. I want to live in Florida. I'll go to Florida. Yeah. I want to go to
Florida State.
Think about him at What about like an old blue blood? Like, what if he went to like Notre Dame, right? What if he went to like Ohio State or Michigan?
I don't think he fits.
No,
those.
but I'm not saying them specifically, but
yeah,
like an old school name like that, where, I mean, let's not forget, Alabama wasn't the greatest job when Nick Saban took it. Remember Mike Shula there?
I agree.
Alabama in the early 2000s, it was not great. He was winning at LSU.
Yeah.
Alabama was not great shakes, and then Nick Saban went there and changed the game. What if he went to like Miami, right? That'd be crazy. Or went to Florida. Like, I don't know if you'd do that, being a Florida State guy.
But that's the thing. Is Miami, is that above Colorado?
If Deion was there, it would be. Ian, if you win it, but I don't know. But that's the whole premise of our conversation.
If you win in Miami, I don't know if it's any bigger than winning at Colorado. I think it's the same thing.
Disagree. It's Miami, buddy. It's Miami, man.
Miami's nothing.
Miami's got history, man.
But they don't have.
Now, if you tell me if Miami has Alabama history, I would say no.
No.
But Miami
had an era.
No, but that's it. Back Colorado is, and they had their good times, and of course, Cordell Stewart and those guys. No, but there's certain teams that have that cool factor in sports where they don't have the blue blood of the, like, we've been around for a long time. I almost look at it like a Gonzaga, right? Everybody knows Gonzaga is a legit program. Mark Few's been doing it for 20, 30 years. You're never going to put them in the Kentuckys or the Dukes, but, like, people respect the hell out of Gonzaga. It's one of the best teams on the West Coast. Miami, maybe, obviously a deeper tradition there, but that's the same kind of thing where Miami wins. That's a cool team to cheer for. Like, whether it was back in the 80s or in the 90s, 2000s, think about it. There's a cool factor of being a Miami fan. I'm not a Miami fan.
I grew up a Miami fan because Alonzo Highsmith.
Yeah, but think about it. Florida and Florida
State.
But that's the difference. Florida and Florida State, even I think Florida probably more, right? Florida as far as the deeper tradition, years.
Been Florida State?
Yeah, 100%.
Florida's deeper than Florida State?
As far as the length of time that they've had a football program, yeah.
I don't know about length of time. I'm talking about, being dominant. I thought Florida State in my lifetime has been more dominant.
Florida goes back. I'm talking think about it.
Florida State was.
No doubt about it. But we're talking about program. When we're talking about blue bloods of the program. I mean, Florida. You're talking about Steve Spurrier was the quarterback in the 50s and 60s at Florida. Did Florida State have a program back then? Remember, because Florida State wasn't Florida State until Bobby Bowden got there, and he was at West Virginia more than anything.
That's true.
You know who was nice? I just saw a video of him yesterday. Do you remember Ron Simmons?
Ron Simmons.
Two-time All-American, D-tackle for Florida State. He ended up being a wrestler named Farouk, or Ron Simmons.
I know that
He was
name.
actually the first black heavyweight champion of the world in WCW, beat Vader.
Really?
But when you ask Bobby Bowden about, like, the best players he ever coached, like, I'm pretty sure the two guys he always said was Ron Simmons and Deion Sanders.
Really?
Bro, you're a two-time defensive tackle and Ron would say, he's like, we weren't Florida State. Yeah. Like, he came before Derek Brooks and Deion Sanders, and you got to check him out, Ron. And he was huge.
I heard Bobby Bowden one time say that you hear who he said the best high school player he's ever seen was? Somebody said, brought this guy, and he goes, he's the best high school player I've ever said. You know what he said? Scott Bradley. He said he's the best. He said, just think about this. How many films?
Eric Hivell his ass.
You know how many films you think that Bobby Bowden's watched? He said Scott Bradley was the best high school football player I've ever seen. So I ran into Scott Bradley. I go, Scott, come here. He goes, yeah, what's up, buddy? I said, I heard Bobby Bowden say you were the best. He goes, it's pretty good. And I go, how good? He goes, it's pretty good. And I go, were you All-American? He starts laughing and he goes, you know that McDonald's thing? I go, the player of the year? He goes, yeah, I was that on offense and defense of the nation. Yeah. That's out of Ocala? You better been a bad boy. I think he was quarterback in high school.
He was phenomenal. And you look at what happened with his life. Like, remember we used to have him on air,
He's not doing well.
No, I mean,
he's not doing well.
No, I mean, I remember having Scott Bradley on air, and then we tried to get him that next season, and he goes, Jay, I can't stay on the phone.
Yeah, man.
And
I heard the NFL wasn't compensating him.
No, because he did those radio shows with the big dog.
Shame.
That's why, when you go back to everything that happens with, like, a Trey Hendrickson, circling all the way back now. If you're a player, you don't owe anything to the NFL.
No.
You don't owe anything to these teams. Because when they're done with you,
Correct.
they're done with you. So how do you not look out for you and your wife and your kids and your family and get that generational money? Because there's a great chance if you're a former football player, your quality of life is going to be shit at some point, and it's not going to improve. You always said you don't get healthier as you get older. So for a situation like where Trey Hendrickson is at, where he seems like he's in good shape and he's been doing really well, damn, man, he's the prime example of, I know you paid other guys, but you got to take care of this man because he's not slowing down either.
What happens if he turns his and he breaks his foot in the first game and he gets 4 sacks? What happens next year? What happens next year?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. So give me my money. You don't get a chance to get the bag too often. Okay, you're just not in that situation very often. You're not in any very few times as an athlete in a situation where it's like you have to pay me.
Right.
Very few in the whole league, and there's been a lot of different names. Derek Brooks did it. A lot of guys did it. Listen, guys, you got to pay me. Mm-hmm. I'm better than this. And I'm always on the athlete side. Always. Because for God's sakes, they're going to cut you in a second.
Last thing before we wrap this thing up. What are your thoughts on NFL playing games on the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all that jazz? If you had to play on those days, what would you think?
I mean, if I play a nationally televised game, I'm happy. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan about, weekly games because they're going to just be more rather than less. I think Thursday games are ridiculous, but we could talk about it all we want, but they make shitloads of money, so it would be wasting our breath. So for anybody that doesn't think it's a big deal, there's a big deal between Thursday night and Sunday afternoon. That's 2.5 days of recovery. Okay? As somebody who I played for many years, if you took away 2.5 days of recovery, I don't know if I catch up for the rest of the season.
Right.
Because that's a lot. I mean, you're catching up all season. Boy, you're just compounding beatings. And if I played on Sunday, then Thursday, I don't know if I could practice the rest of the year. I really don't. I didn't practice much anyways. So they're going to keep doing it. I believe the Bucks are playing on Thanksgiving, I believe.
No.
They're not?
No.
You sure about that?
Yes.
I thought the Bucks were playing on Thanksgiving. No?
We'll talk about that off air.
Oh, what happened? Is inside scoop?
No, I just don't want to badmouth a friend of ours.
Oh, okay. Does somebody give some bad information?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I heard that from someone.
I know where you heard it. We'll talk about it off air. I love you, buddy, but you best this one up. All right, Beckles and Recher podcast every Wednesday at 3 right here. At Ian_Beckles, at Jay Recher on all social media platforms. Ian joins me on my podcast every Monday at 12:30 as well. Again, like, subscribe, do everything, man. Continue to support us. Check everybody out here at the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Get you some kava, get you some kratom. We're doing a lot of great things here.
420?
Yeah, 420 friendly.
Yes.
That's how we roll, man.
Don't hate.
For Ian Beckles, I'm Jason Bartholomew Recher. We'll see you next Wednesday. Peace out.
If you're looking for the pulse of Tampa Bay sports, Beckles and Recher is the #1 source. The new guard, raising up the bar. Intelligent sports talk in your own backyard. Ain't no competition, ask the fans why. Beckles and Recher got it by a landslide. Don't fret, microphone check, stand by. Yo, Fox, where they at? Who my 2 favorite guys?
Here they go.
Here they go.
Here they go.
Here they go.
Here they go.